The hotel suite smelled of leather and expensive cologne. Logan Fischer stood by the window, his jaw tight as he surveyed the city below. 32 floors up, and he still felt trapped. "Mr. Fischer, your room is ready," he turned. The cleaning woman stood in the doorway, mop in hand, dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. Her uniform hung loose on her frame, and her eyes held the kind of exhaustion that came from working 3 jobs. 5 minutes, he said coldly. "Don't touch anything you don't have to." Isabella Montero had cleaned 1,000 rooms, dealt with 100 entitled guests. But something about this man's ice-blue stare made her spine straighten. Understood. She moved through the room like a shadow, efficient and invisible, until her hand brushed his wrist as she reached for a glass on the side table. Logan gasped. His body went rigid. Isabella jerked back. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You touched me." His voice was barely a whisper. He stared at his wrist like it had been branded. "You actually touched me. Should I call someone? Are you okay?" He looked up at her, and for the first time, she saw something besides ice in those eyes. Fear, wonder, confusion. "I'm allergic to women. Every woman. Contact causes severe reactions. Rashes, breathing problems, complete system shut down." He turned his wrist over, examining the skin. "But you, ... nothing." Isabella's heart hammered. "That's not possible, I know." He stepped closer, studying her face like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. "Who are you?" "Just a cleaning lady who wants to finish her shift and go home." "Not anymore." His voice dropped, became dangerous. "You're coming with me?" "Excuse me? I need to understand this. You're the first woman in 12 years who hasn't made me sick." "That makes you valuable," Isabella laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm not a science experiment. I'll triple your salary. Health insurance. A signing bonus." She should have walked away. Should have told this arrogant billionaire exactly where to shove his offer. But rent was 3 months overdue, and her sister's medical bills kept piling up. "Fine, but I have conditions." Logan's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Everyone has a price, and you just found mine." He extended his hand. She hesitated, then took it. His skin was warm against hers. No rash, no reaction. Just the electric current of something neither of them understood. "Welcome to your new life, Isabella Montero." She pulled her hand away. Already regretting her decision? "Let's get one thing straight, Mr. Fischer. You don't own me. You're renting my time. We'll see about that." As she walked out of that hotel room, Isabella felt the weight of his gaze on her back. She didn't know it yet. But she'd just sold her soul to the devil in a designer suit, and the devil always collected his debts. 3 weeks later, Isabella stood in Logan's penthouse office, fighting the urge to throw his coffee in his face. "This is the 3rd time you've rewritten this report," she said through gritted teeth. "What exactly do you want from me?" Logan didn't look up from his laptop. "Perfection. I'm your assistant, not a mind reader." "Then learn." The city lights glittered behind him, casting shadows across his sharp features. He looked like a king surveying his kingdom, cold and untouchable. Isabella slammed the report on his desk. "You know what? I'm done for today. We're not finished." "Yes, we are." She grabbed her bag. "Fire me if you want. I don't care anymore." She was halfway to the elevator when his voice stopped her. "My mother died when I was 8. Isabella froze, turned slowly. Logan stood by the window, his back to her. His shoulders were tight, his hands clenched at his sides. "The allergy started the day of her funeral. A neighbor tried to hug me, and I collapsed. Spent 3 days in the hospital." His voice was flat, emotionless. "Doctors couldn't explain it. Called it psychosomatic. A trauma response." Isabella's anger dissolved. She set her bag down. "Every woman since then has been poisoned to my system. Teachers, doctors, colleagues. I couldn't date, couldn't have relationships, couldn't even shake hands at business meetings." He finally turned to face her. "Until you." The vulnerability in his eyes made her chest ache. "Logan, don't." He held up a hand. "Don't pity me. That's not why I'm telling you this. Then why are you?" He crossed the room, stopping inches from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. "'Cause you're the only woman in 12 years who's made me feel human again. And I don't know if that's a gift or a curse." Isabella's breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I need you. And I hate that I need you." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his entire demeanor shifted. The vulnerability vanished, replaced by cold fury. "What is it?" Isabella asked. "My father." He grabbed his jacket. "He's at the hospital. Heart attack, oh my God. Let me drive, you know." "Logan, you can't." I said no. His voice was sharp, cutting. "This doesn't concern you?" The words hit her like a slap. She watched him stride to the elevator, leaving her standing alone in his empty office. As the elevator doors closed, Isabella saw something in his expression that chilled her blood. It wasn't fear for his father's life, it was satisfaction. The next morning, Logan didn't come to the office. Isabella spent the day fielding calls, managing his schedule, trying not to think about the darkness she'd seen in his eyes. When he finally returned at 8 p.m., his tie was loosened, his hair disheveled. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. "Is your father okay?" she asked carefully. Logan poured himself a whiskey, drained it in one gulp. "He's stable. For now, you should be with him, should I?" He laughed bitterly. "Tell me, Isabella, what do you do when the person who ruined your life is lying in a hospital bed? All you can think about is how much easier things would be if you just didn't wake up?" Isabella's blood went cold. "Logan, he's the reason my mother died." He drove her to it. The affairs, the abuse, the constant humiliation. Logan's hands shook as he poured another drink. "And when I developed this condition, he called me weak, pathetic, said I was making it up for attention. That's horrible. Want to know the worst part?" He looked at her, and his eyes were hollow. "Part of me hopes he dies. Part of me wants to be there when it happens, just so I can watch." Isabella stepped closer. "You don't mean that? Don't I?" She reached for his hand, her fingers wrapping around his wrist. His pulse hammered beneath her touch. "You're angry? You're hurt. But you're not a killer, Logan." He pulled away, but not before she saw the tears threatening to spill. "You don't know what I am." Before she could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and her stomach dropped. "I have to take this." She stepped into the hallway, her hands trembling as she answered. "Miss Montero?" The voice was professional, clinical. "This is St. Mary's Hospital. Your sister's condition has worsened. We need to discuss her treatment options immediately." Isabella's world tilted. "How bad is it?" "We need you here tonight." "It's urgent." She hung up, leaned against the wall, fighting the tears burning her eyes. When she walked back into the office, Logan was watching her. "What's wrong?" "I have to go. Family emergency." His expression softened. "Take the company car. I'll have my driver know." Her voice cracked. "I can't accept anything else from you, Logan. Not when I'm already drowning in debt because of my sister's medical bills. Not when I know that's the only reason I'm here." The words hung between them like broken glass. Logan's jaw tightened. "That's what you think? That I hired you because you're desperate? Didn't you?" The silence stretched too long. Isabella grabbed her bag, blinked back tears. "I'll see you tomorrow. If you still want me here." She was at the elevator when he called out. "Isabella," she didn't turn. "I want you here because you're the only person who's ever stood up to me. The only person who's ever made me feel like I might be worth saving." The elevator doors opened. Isabella stepped inside, finally meeting his gaze. "Then maybe you should start acting like it." And Logan stood alone in his office, surrounded by his empire. More isolated than ever, in the reflection of the window. He saw his father's cruel smile staring back at him, and for the first time in 12 years, Logan Fischer wondered if he was becoming the monster he'd always feared. Isabella didn't show up to work for 3 days. Logan told himself he didn't care. He had a company to run, deals to close, a father in the hospital whose life hung in the balance. He didn't have time to worry about one stubborn assistant who'd walked out on him. But every time his office door opened, he looked up hoping to see her dark eyes, her defiant stance, her refusal to be impressed by his money or his power. On the fourth day she appeared, she looked exhausted. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her clothes hung looser than before. But her spine was straight, her chin lifted. "I'm back," she said simply. Logan set down his pen. "Your sister? Stable?" For now, she wouldn't meet his gaze. "I need to discuss my contract." "What about it?" "I need an advance." 6 months' salary? The number hung in the air between them. Logan leaned back in his chair. "That's a substantial amount, I know. And if I refuse..." Her jaw tightened. "Then I walk." He studied her, saw the desperation she was trying to hide behind her pride. "What's really going on, Isabella? That's none of your business, as if you're asking me for money." She slammed her hands on his desk, leaning forward. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to pretend you care about my life when you've spent the last month treating me like a possession you bought and paid for. Is that what you think?" Logan stood, matching her intensity. "That you're just another employee to me, aren't I?" He came around the desk, closing the distance between them. "If you were just another employee, I wouldn't have spent the last 3 nights unable to sleep, wondering if you were okay. If you were just another employee, I wouldn't feel like my chest is caving in every time you look at me like I'm the villain in your story." Isabella's breath hitched. "Logan, I'll give you the advance. No questions asked. But I need you to be honest with me. About everything." She looked away, her throat working. "My sister needs an experimental treatment. It's not covered by insurance. If I don't come up with the money in 2 weeks, she dies." The words landed like stones in water. Logan reached for her hand, but she pulled back. "I don't want your pity," she said. "I want the advance, and then we're even. Boss, an employee, nothing more." "What if I want more?" The question hung between them, dangerous and electric. Before Isabella could answer, Logan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire body went rigid. "What is it?" Isabella asked.
"Al's my father."
"He's awake. He wants to see me. That's good news, isn't it?" Logan's laugh was hollow. "You'd think so." The hospital smelled like disinfectant and decay. Logan stood outside his father's room, his hands clenched so tight his knuckles had gone white. Isabella touched his arm. "You don't have to do this alone." "Yes, I do." But when he pushed open the door, she followed anyway. Richard Fischer looked smaller in the hospital bed, tubes and wires connecting him to machines that beeped steadily. But his eyes were the same, sharp, cold, calculating. "Logan." His voice was raspy but strong. "You came, I'm here." Logan's tone was flat, emotionless. Richard's gaze shifted to Isabella. "And who's this? Another secretary you're sleeping with?" Isabella's eyes flared, but Logan stepped in front of her. "Careful, old man. Your heart might not survive the excitement." Richard laughed, a wet, ugly sound. "Still so dramatic, just like your mother." Logan's body went taut as a wire. "Don't," he said quietly. "Don't you dare talk about her." "Why not?" "She was weak. Couldn't handle the pressure of being married to a Fisher. That's not my fault. You drove her to suicide." Logan's voice shook. "You destroyed her, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. I built an empire. She was supposed to be strong enough to stand beside me." Richard's eyes glittered with malice. "But she wasn't, and neither are you." Isabella saw Logan's hands tremble, saw the rage building in his chest like a storm. "Ow, Logan," she said softly. "Let's go." But Richard wasn't done. "You want to know the truth about your precious allergy?" He smiled, showing yellowed teeth. "It's all in your head. Psychosomatic nonsense. You're so desperate for attention, so weak, that your body manufactures problems just so people will care about you." "That's not true," Isabella said sharply. Richard's gaze cut to her. "And you? You think you're special? You think you're the one who's going to save him?" He laughed again. "You're just like all the others. You're here for the money. The moment things get hard, you'll run. That's enough, Logan said. But Richard leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the room. I know about your sister, Miss Montero. I know about the debt, the experimental treatment. He smiled. And I know that Logan here offered you in advance. How convenient. Isabella's blood ran cold. How do you, because I'm the one who suggested it. Richard's eyes gleamed with triumph. I told my son exactly how to buy your loyalty. Give the desperate woman what she needs, and she'll do anything you want. The world stopped. Isabella turned to Logan, her heart hammering. Tell me he's lying. Logan's face had gone pale. Isabella, tell me you didn't know about my sister before you hired me. Tell me this wasn't all planned. The silence was answer enough. Oh, God. Isabella backed away, her hand over her mouth. You knew? This whole time you knew. It's not what you think then, what is it? Her voice cracked. Did you research me? Find out about my sister's condition, her medical bills, and decide I'd be the perfect candidate for your little experiment? I needed someone I could trust. You needed someone you could control. Tears streamed down her face. Someone desperate enough to stay, no matter how badly you treated them. Someone who wouldn't leave because they couldn't afford to. Was any of it real? She looked at him, her eyes pleading. The conversations, the moments where you actually seemed human. Was any of it real? Or was I just another acquisition for you to add to your portfolio? Logan reached for her, but she jerked back. Don't touch me. Richard laughed from his bed, the sound like breaking glass. There it is. The truth always comes out eventually. Isabella turned and ran from the room, her footsteps echoing in the sterile hallway. Logan stood frozen, his father's laughter ringing in his ears. You're just like me, son, Richard said. You use people. You manipulate them. You think you can buy love with money and control? He smiled. Welcome to the family business. Logan looked at his father, at the monster who'd shaped his entire life, and felt something inside him shatter. No, he whispered. I'm not like you. But as he chased after Isabella, he couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, his father was right, and that terrified him more than anything. Logan found Isabella on the rooftop of the hospital, standing at the edge, staring at the city below. For a moment, his heart stopped. Don't, he said hoarsely. She turned, and he saw her face was streaked with tears. Don't what? Jump. I'm not that dramatic, Logan. I just needed air. Isabella, was it true? Her voice was raw. Everything your father said. Did you know about my sister before you hired me? Logan's jaw worked. Every instinct told him to lie, to manipulate, to say whatever would make her stay. But he'd spent his whole life lying. Yes, the word hung between them like a death sentence. Isabella's face crumpled. Why? Because I was desperate. Moved closer, his hand shaking. I spent 12 years unable to touch a woman without collapsing. 12 years of isolation, of feeling like I was broken beyond repair. And then you walked into my hotel room, and for the first time since my mother died, I felt normal. So you researched me, found my weakness, and exploited it. Yes, Logan's voice cracked. I'm not going to stand here and pretend I'm a good person, Isabella. I'm not. I'm my father's son. I manipulate. I control. I use people to get what I want. Then why are you telling me this? Because I'm tired of being him. Logan stepped closer, his eyes burning. I'm tired of waking up every morning and seeing his face in the mirror. I'm tired of pushing away anyone who tries to get close because I'm terrified they'll see the monster underneath. Isabella shook her head. You can't just confess your sins and expect forgiveness. You can't buy your way out of this with money or apologies, I know. Then what do you want from me? Her voice broke. What could you possibly want after everything you've done? Logan took a breath, and when he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. I want you to let me fix this. Not for me. For your sister. Isabella froze. What? The experimental treatment. It costs $500,000, right? Logan pulled out his phone. I can have the money transferred tonight. Full payment. No strings attached, Logan. And when your sister is healthy, when the treatment is done, you never have to see me again. His hands trembled as he held out the phone. Take it, please. Isabella stared at the phone like it was a loaded gun. Why would you do this? Because my mother died alone, drowning in pain, and I couldn't save her. Logan's voice cracked. Because I've spent my entire life trying to control everything around me, and the only thing I've managed to do is destroy the one person who actually saw me as human. You're trying to buy my forgiveness. No, he shook his head. I'm trying to give you a reason not to hate me for the rest of your life, even if I deserve it. The wind whipped around them, cold and sharp. Isabella looked at the phone, then at Logan, and saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Not manipulation. Not control, just raw, desperate honesty. If I take this money, she said slowly, I'm done. I walk away, and you never contact me again. Agreed. You don't get to use this as leverage. You don't get to hold it over me. I wouldn't. And you have to promise me something. Her voice hardened. You have to get help. Therapy. Whatever it takes to stop being the man your father made you. Logan's throat worked. I promise. She stared at him for a long moment, then reached for the phone. Their fingers touched, and Logan felt it. The warmth, the connection, the proof that he wasn't completely broken. Not yet. Thank you, Isabella whispered. Don't thank me. This doesn't make us even. It doesn't fix what I did. I know. She pulled the phone away, clutching it to her chest. But maybe it's a start. 2 weeks later, Isabella sat in her sister's hospital room, watching Sophia sleep. The treatment was working. The color had returned to her cheeks, and the doctors were cautiously optimistic. For the first time in months, Isabella could breathe without feeling like she was drowning. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The money went through. Your sister is going to be okay. Isabella's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She should block the number, delete the message. Cut all ties like she'd promised herself, but instead she typed back, thank you. For everything 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I meant what I said on the rooftop. I'm getting help. I'm trying to be better. Isabella's chest tightened. Good. You deserve to be happy. Logan, even if you don't believe it yet, the dots appeared one more time. So do you. She stared at the message, her heart hammering. Then her phone rang. Logan's name flashed on the screen. She should let it go to voicemail. Should maintain the distance they'd agreed on. But Isabella had never been good at following rules. Hello? I'm outside your apartment. Logan's voice was rough. I know I said I wouldn't contact you. I know I broke my promise. But I need you to hear this. Logan, my father, died an hour ago. Isabella's breath caught. Oh my God, are you okay? I don't know. Pause. I should feel something, right? Relief? Grief? Anger? But I just feel empty. Where are you exactly? In my car. Across the street? I didn't know where else to go. Isabella looked out the window and saw the black sedan parked under a streetlight. Even from here, she could see Logan's silhouette in the driver's seat, his head bowed. She should hang up. Should let him deal with his demons alone. But she thought about the man on the rooftop, offering to save her sister with no expectation of forgiveness. The man who'd spent 12 years trapped in a prison of his father's making. Stay there, she said. I'm coming down. Isabella found Logan sitting on the hood of his car, staring at nothing. His tie was loose, his hair disheveled. He looked lost, she said softly. He looked up, and his eyes were red-rimmed. You came. Of course I came. She sat beside him on the hood, their shoulders almost touching. Talk to me. I thought I'd feel free when he died. Logan's voice was hollow. I thought all the anger, all the pain, would just disappear. But it's still there. He's still there in my head, telling me I'm weak. Telling me I'll never be good enough. You're not your father, Logan. How do you know? Because your father wouldn't have saved my sister. He wouldn't have admitted his mistakes. He wouldn't be sitting here, broken and honest. Instead of hiding behind his money and his power, Logan turned to her, and for the first time since she'd known him, She saw tears on his face. "I don't know how to be anyone else," he whispered. "I don't know how to be the person you deserve." Isabella took his hand, felt his pulse jump beneath her touch. "Then let me help you figure it out." He stared at their joined hands, then at her face. "Why would you do that? After everything I've done?" "Because everyone deserves a second chance. Even you?" She squeezed his hand. "But Logan, if we do this, if we try to be something more than boss and employee, it has to be real. No more manipulation. No more games. I don't know if I know how to do that. Then learn." Her voice was firm. "Because I'm not going to be another person you control. If you want me in your life, you have to let me in. All the way." Logan searched her face, looking for the trap, the angle, the ulterior motive. But all he saw was honesty. And maybe, just maybe, hope. "Okay," he said. "Okay." They sat in silence, hands clasped, as the city moved around them. Two broken people, trying to build something whole from the pieces they'd been left with. But as Isabella looked at Logan's profile, at the way his shoulders had started to relax, she felt a flutter of fear in her chest, because some scars ran too. It's deep to heal, and some monsters never really died. 3 months after Richard Fisher's death, Logan stood in the ruins of his father's office. Surrounded by boxes and memories, Isabella watched from the doorway as he pulled files from the desk. His movements mechanical, detached. "You okay?" she asked. "Found something." Logan held up a leather journal, his hands trembling. "My mother's diary. He kept it all these years." Isabella moved closer. "Logan, listen to this." His voice shook as he read. "Richard knows about the allergy. He's been paying doctors to misdiagnose Logan to keep him isolated. He says a weak son is easier to control than a strong one." The words hung in the air like smoke. Isabella's blood ran cold. "He did this to you on purpose?" "He made me sick." Logan's laugh was broken, jagged. "For 12 years, I thought I was defective, broken, and it was him. It was always him." The journal slipped from his hands and hit the floor. Isabella reached for him, but he pulled away, pacing like a caged animal. "I could have had a normal life," he said. "I could have gone to college, had relationships, been a normal person. But he took that from me. He took everything. Logan, I'm so sorry." He whirled on her, and his eyes were wild. "Sorry doesn't give me back 12 years. Sorry doesn't undo the damage."
I know.
"But he's gone now. You're free." "Am I?" Logan's voice dropped. "Because I still see his face in the mirror. I still hear his voice telling me I'm weak, I'm pathetic, I'm nothing without the Fisher name." Isabella stepped closer, cupping his face in her hands. "Then prove him wrong. Be the man he couldn't destroy." For a moment, Logan leaned into her touch, his eyes closing. Then he pulled away. "I need air." He walked out, leaving Isabella alone with the ghost of Richard Fisher and the weight of 12 stolen years. She found Logan on the rooftop of Fisher Tower, standing at the edge just like she had months ago. "Don't," she said. Echoing his words, he turned and his smile was sad. "I'm not going to jump. I'm just thinking about how easy it would be to just step off and let gravity do the rest." "Logan, please, do you know what the worst part is?" He faced the city, his voice carried by the wind. "I'm starting to understand why he did it. The manipulation, the control. It's easier to make people into pieces on a chessboard than to treat them like humans. It's safer. You're not him, but I could be." He looked at her and his eyes were haunted. "I look at you, and part of me still wants to figure out how to keep you. How to make sure you never leave." That's his voice in my head, telling me love is just another form of ownership. Isabella's heart cracked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't know if I can be the man you need me to be." Logan's voice broke. "I'm saying maybe you should walk away before I hurt you the way he hurt my mother. That's not going to happen. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Isabella moved to stand beside him. "Because you're here on this rooftop, terrified of becoming him. Your father never questioned himself. He never doubted. He never cared about the damage he caused. That doesn't mean I won't hurt you. Everyone hurts the people they love. Logan, the question is whether you're willing to do the work to heal that hurt. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the strength beneath her softness. The woman who'd stood up to him from day one, who'd called him out on his behavior, who'd refused to be bought or controlled. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not. Her smile was gentle. But I'm choosing you anyway. Why? Because underneath all the armor, all the anger, all the fear, there's a man who paid for my sister's treatment with no expectation of reward. A man who's fighting every day to be better than the monster who raised him. She took his hand. That's the man I'm choosing. Logan's fingers tightened around hers. I'm going to mess this up, probably. I'm going to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, push you away when I'm scared. I know. And you're still staying? Isabella met his gaze and her eyes were clear. I'm still staying. But Logan, you have to promise me something. Anything. Keep going to therapy. Keep doing the work. And when your father's voice gets loud in your head, when you start to think that control is the same as love, you tell me. Because we're in this together now. No more secrets. No more games. Logan pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I promise. They stood there as the sun set over the city, to people learning to trust, learning to heal. Learning that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone see your broken pieces. 6 months later, Isabella walked into Logan's office with coffee and a smile. You're late, he said. Without looking up from his computer, traffic was terrible. That's the 3rd time this week. Are you going to dock my pay, boss? Logan finally looked up and his eyes were warm. Depends. Are you going to stop bringing me cold coffee? It's not cold. It's lukewarm. There's a difference. Not to my taste buds. Isabella set the coffee on his desk and leaned against it. You know what I realize? What? We've been doing this US for half a year, and you haven't had a single allergic reaction. Logan stood, moving around the desk to stand in front of her. That's because the allergy was never real. It was all in my head. Just like my mother wrote. Or, Isabella said, it was real. And I'm just that magical. That's one theory. He pulled her close. And she wrapped her arms around his neck. I love you, Logan said quietly. I don't know if I say that enough. You say it every time you choose to be honest, instead of manipulative. Every time you choose trust over control. Isabella kissed him softly. That's how I know it's real. I'm still working on it. The therapist says, I have years of unpacking to do. Good thing I'm patient. Logan laughed, and the sound was lighter than it had been in months. You're the least patient person I know. True. But for you, I'll make an exception. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Logan felt something he hadn't felt in 12 years. Peace. The ghost of his father would probably never fully disappear. The scars would always be there, a reminder of the man he could have become. But Isabella was his proof that he could be better. That he could choose love over control, honesty over manipulation, healing over pain. She was his second chance. And this time, he wasn't going to waste it. Logan pulled back slightly, looking into Isabella's eyes. Thank you for what? For being allergic to my nonsense, he smiled. For seeing the man underneath the monster. Isabella cupped his face, her thumb brushing his cheek. You were never a monster, Logan. You were just a man who forgot how to be human. And you reminded me. You reminded each other. Outside the office window, the city stretched endlessly, full of possibility and promise. 2 broken people had found each other in the ruins of their pasts and built something, knew something real. Something worth fighting for. Logan kissed Isabella again. Deeper this time, pouring 12 years of loneliness and 3 months of healing into that single moment. And for the first time in his life, Logan Fischer understood what his mother had been trying to tell him in that diary. Love wasn't about ownership. It was about freedom. The freedom to be seen. To be known. To be accepted with all your broken pieces and jagged edges. The freedom to choose someone, every single day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Come on, Isabella said. Pulling back with a grin, "We have a meeting in 10 minutes? Cancel it. Logan, I'm the CEO. I can cancel whatever I want." He pulled her back in. "Besides, I have something more important to do." "What's that?" "Proving to you that I'm worth all the trouble." Isabella laughed, bright and free. "You already have, you dramatic billionaire. Then let me prove it again." And as they stood there, wrapped in each other in the promise of tomorrow, the ghost of Richard Fisher finally faded into nothing. Because some monsters only have power if you believe in them. And Logan Fischer had finally stopped believing. The end.